was 18 and female, and had a part-time job working at the door of an upmarket Mayfair club in the London West End as a door picker, as someone who lets people into the club. I encountered some pretty nasty, sleazy, entitled men, as you can imagine, doing this, but it really toughened me up as a person, as previously I lived a very sheltered life. My other half used to say that I was like a fairy dancing through the darkness and not realizing the evil around me, aka very naive. I did this to earn extra money while studying at sixth form college during the day. Suffice to say, I was always pretty knackered. I didn't drive then, and used to take the night bus home, which for all you night workers understand how weird it is to be stone cold sober after a night shift surrounded by drunks. I grew up in London, and by and large found night buses safe as they were well lit, and the driver would always watch out for drunk people making noise or mess. One particular night, I was sitting on the bus reading. It was Crime and Punishment, which has these weird is it a dream or is it not chapters in it. Anyway, I thought I missed my stop, panicked and jumped off one stop early. If you can picture the scene, it's 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm walking past closed retail shops with streetlights above on a rather narrow street. The road is on my right. It's dark and the pavement is damp from earlier rainfall. There are minimal cars driving past and even less people. I text my mum that I'm around the corner, and as I briefly look up, I see a man in front of me in the distance who glances back at me. He, I assume, was drunk, or couldn't see me properly in the dark, so he wasn't aware that I clocked him looking. I naturally slowed down, and as I always thought it was better to show no fear rather than cross the road, I keep on walking, but looking down at my phone, texting my mum at the same time. There is about 12 feet between us, and as I get closer, I notice him quickly move and hide behind a red telephone box, and I can see his shadow facing away from the road towards the pavement, waiting for me to go past. I assumed that he was going to pounce as I walked past. At the time, anger overtook me, and rather than run or walk the other way, I go around the back of the telephone box and say loudly, "Better luck next time," and swiftly walk home without looking back. It didn't resonate with me how creepy or dangerous or scary this whole thing was. I should have rang the police or called my mum, but I was young and feeling tough and pissed off about men trying to take advantage of a young woman. I always think what he was going to do was mug me, but maybe not. It was an empty street, but someone would have definitely seen or heard. I definitely didn't look like a drunk girl in my flat boots and jeans and backpack, but I was a young girl nevertheless. Out of all the scary experiences that I've had, this one definitely read in my mind like a horror movie moment. If the police had asked what he had looked like, I wouldn't have even been able to describe him anyway. So, I was either lucky, or maybe he just backed out. So, creepy behind telephone box man, I hope someone did catch you, and me standing up to you, I hope it made you think twice about trying to scare girls or do something much worse. My father died about 5 years ago, unexpectedly, from a heart attack. To say it was hard on my mother and I is an understatement. Our old house in Knoxville just didn't feel like home anymore. About a year later, Mum and I made plans to take ourselves and our elderly dog Ace on a move further south to a small town. It was situated about a half hour from Atlanta. Just a few days before we were slated to move, however, I had one of the most vivid dreams that I've ever come to experience. All that was within my dream was my bedroom, a picture-perfect recreation of the real thing. I sometimes wonder if I was in some sort of sleep paralysis state when it occurred. To further add to the dream's realism, in the middle of the night, the streetlights right across the street, they would illuminate through the window, creating a light reflection on the wall perpendicular. In my dream, as I lay there staring at that exact reflection on the wall, I saw an orb of smoke fade in from the shadows. Goosebumps chilled across my skin as I lay there panicked and afraid to move a muscle. Suddenly, it stopped moving, and it steadily hung in the light's reflection as if it was staring at me. Without warning, it spoke to me in my dead father's voice. It said that it was sending something to watch me. Despite hearing my father's voice come from the orb, though, I was terrified of it. I didn't know why, and yet I managed to squeak out a small reply towards it. "What?" I whispered. The orb remained silent for a few moments, leaving an eerily dead silence in the voice's place. Just as quickly, it spoke to me one final time. It said "damn" black. I woke up almost instantaneously, gasping for breath at this point. The nightmare had chilled me to my core. I didn't know exactly what to make of it, especially those two final words. I chalked it up to maybe Dad wishing us well on our move, but at the time, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was some kind of warning. Within the next couple of weeks, my mother and I moved out of Knoxville and headed down to South Georgia. She had managed to find a quaint little house for us. With only one or two neighbours down a gravel road in the middle of the woods, it was a nice fit for us. Probably the best reliever of all the stress that came with the move, however, was our new neighbour's cat. She was petite, older black cat that gravitated towards me almost instantly, and I treated her as if she was my own pet. I left out a can of food once or twice a week for her, and even if I didn't call out to her, when she saw me outside, she would always run up to me. She helped ease my tensions about leaving Knoxville behind, especially without Dad here with us. Less than a month into our new house, I awoke suddenly to a faint coughing noise that sounded like it was coming from downstairs. One important thing to know about our dog Ace is that he has a collapsed trachea. He needs medicine to help calm the condition down, so I'm used to waking up in the middle of the night to give him his medicine. I proceeded downstairs from my bedroom to give him his cough medicine, but I couldn't find him anywhere throughout the house. He wasn't in his bed sleeping, he wasn't in the kitchen, he was nowhere to be found. I didn't check Mum's bedroom, however, as to avoid waking her up. And besides, I wouldn't have heard the coughing if he had been in there anyway, so I just let it be. And that's when I heard the coughing again, but it was coming from further away, as if from outside. I looked over at the side patio door leading out into the woodlands, and realized I had forgotten to shut it. And there it stood, slightly ajar. Shit, I thought to myself. He must have gotten out. I immediately ran outside with a flashlight and started calling out for my dog. "Ace? Ace?" I shouted into the neighbouring trees. I heard another cough and shined my light in its direction. At that time, it had echoed from down the gravel road. I swear, a path had never looked so terrifyingly desolate before in my life than that night, as I stared down the gravel road that led us to our new home. But in that moment, I thought that my dog was lost, and I chalked it up to Newhouse jitters, so I presumed onward.
"Ace, come on boy, home's this way, buddy."
That's when I heard it, the cough that I had been following, but this time it was almost right beside me. This time, it didn't stay like the dry cough I had been hearing. Instead, the cough had slowly descended into a low growl. I shined my light towards the new sound, and there stood a bright red fox in the middle of the path. For a moment, I figured it was some kind of sick fox I had mistaken for my dog. The whole time as I was processing what I was seeing, it just stared directly at me. Its eyes glowed from the light of my flashlight. However, our stare broke when it tilted its head to the right. I looked down and there she was, our neighbour's little black cat standing beside me. However, it was as if she had completely changed persona. She was no longer the happy, affectionate cat I had come to know. Instead, she had her back arched upright, every fibre of her hair standing at attention, and uttered the lowest growl I'd ever heard come out of a feline. In that moment, I figured that she was just scared of the fox, so I knelt down beside her in a bid to coax her away and avoid the fox hurting her. But no matter how many times I tried to coax her out of fight mode, she just wouldn't budge. Her stare remained unfazed. That's when I looked towards the direction of the fox once more, but there wasn't a fox standing there anymore. Instead, in the exact same spot of that gravel road, was a walking, rotting corpse of roadkill coyote, slowly moving towards me. I took a step back, absolutely horrified of what I was seeing. Its jaw was hanging loose from its face, and one of its eyes was stained with blood, and it wobbled back and forth as if it was desperately fighting pain. I rubbed my eyes out of disbelief, hoping I was imagining this, but it was still there when my eyes reopened. Despite the gruesome sight before us, our neighbor's black cat, no matter how tiny she was, she just stood there and kept growling at the creature. And suddenly, it stopped. The creature had ceased its walk towards us. For a moment, it just stood there, glancing back and forth between myself and this little black cat that was trying to defend me. And that's when I could have sworn that I heard this thing say in a kind of low, gravelly growl, "Damn black." In a flash, the creature ran straight into the woods. I shined my flashlight in its direction, but it had completely vanished. Even the brush it had ran through looked untouched. That's when the cat, still standing beside me, calmed herself down. Almost as if nothing had happened, she rubbed herself up against my leg, returning to a normal, loving mood. Despite technically not being mine, I proceeded to scoop her up and run back into the house. Before heading upstairs with the little black cat snuggled up in my arms, I decided to poke my head into my mother's room. Laying on the floor, sound asleep, was Ace. He had been there the entire time. I quietly closed the door before bolting upstairs. I made sure that little cat slept with me in my bed that night. From the research I've done, I think I was almost the victim of some kind of skinwalker. It must have picked up the sounds my dog sometimes makes late at night, and knowing that I'd likely come to its aid. For whatever reason, our neighbor's black cat had scared it so badly, it scrambled away. I haven't seen it since that night. Maybe because that same cat likes to wander down that gravel road late at night. Or maybe that thing just decided I wasn't worth the trouble. Either way, whether I have my father or pure luck to thank, I leave a can of food out every single night for that little black cat. And the most ironic part of it all is that that cat's name is Halloween. G'day mates, it's Busta here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks again to the Hive members that bravely shared their stories for us all here, and I hope you guys are all doing really well. For the chance to have your story feature in a video, you can send your story to my email, which is in the description below. If you would like more scary stories too, you can click on the card at the top right of your screen or on one of the annotations on your screen right now. As always guys, it would be awesome if you could like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates throughout the week. And also, if you would like content early and completely advert-free for as little as $1 a month, feel free to click on the link to my Patreon account and sign up there for regular MP3 format stories. Thanks again for tuning in and for all the love as always, guys, and I'll see you mates in the next one.